Marketing are wanting rich storytelling, operations are wanting accuracy. So that tension can be a real push pressure on teams. And it's exactly why they're looking to PIMs like Pimberly. Complexity in travel can ramp up really quickly. Accommodation, flights, experiences, activities, you want amenities, packages. Whilst I've been talking to travel brands, the riskiest areas, and this has been a constant, has always been cancellation terms, transfer details, seasonal availability, pricing and fees, where we can hold those pricing. So if those are wrong, it's the reputational and financial damage straight away.
Hello, welcome back to the Pimberly Perspectives podcast. I'm Alex McConnell, and in this podcast we talk about product information and how it affects various different industries and different topics within that. And today we're going to be talking about the travel industry, and it's an area that has increasingly we've seen more interest in product information management here at Pimberly, especially from my guest today. Rebecca Glynn, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, of course. I'm Becky. I'm account executive at Pimberly. I've been here for over 4.5 years now. And it's quite, I suppose it's quite bizarre because I came from travel many, many years ago, worked in travel all of my life. And now I am concentrating and working with travel companies at Pimberly for a very different subject matter. But yes.
I can see why, and of course, we know you like your summer holidays and things like that. So very familiar with the booking process. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's sort of jump into it then. So from a perspective of quality of content and consistency, we're looking at travel information across websites, booking engines, agent portals, things like that. What kind of pressures are travel companies that you're talking to feeling around the quality of that kind of content?
I'd say what we're seeing with our travel customers, so companies like Scott Dunn, Envoyage, Flight Centre, is that content has to move much faster than ever before. So rates, availability, terms that are changing consistently or constantly, So speed to update is just as critical as speed to market. And at the same time, I suppose the same product needs to look very different on a website compared to a booking agent and a booking engine, an agent portal, but without losing that consistency. Marketing, what we're seeing is marketing are wanting rich storytelling, operations are wanting accuracy. So that tension can be a real push pressure on teams. And it's exactly why they're looking to PIMs like Pimberly, having that one central source that can push fresh, channel-ready content everywhere.
Yeah, so how do varied sources, you've got your operators, your DMCs, your GDSs and hotels, got sources of information coming into these travel companies. How do the formats that those come in create a lot of friction and risk day to day for travel companies?
Yeah, I'd say that in travel, the data comes from so many different places. You've got operators, DMCs, GDS feeds, that's their global distribution system, hotel partners. It never arrives in the same format. So I suppose we've seen firsthand, one sends it on spreadsheets, another on email PDFs, others will give API feeds. It can create so much friction. And I suppose that's because teams are spending hours mapping and cleaning that information before it can even reach the data. So I suppose a risk there is that errors slip through and can lead to mis-selling, which is a constant that we've heard. It's been a theme across our travel customers, and it's where we've structured supplier capture. And I suppose we've automated that transformation through Pimberly, making that a big differentiator.
Yeah, you talked a bit about automation there. I suppose they're moving into automation away from those manual tools, manual processes. So where do these manual tools that they're using now slow the teams down? What kind of triggers that move to a more automated system like Pimberly provides?
Yeah, well, most travel companies we speak with are still juggling spreadsheets, like I say, in the other one, emails, manual image handling. As you know, travel is a very visual thing, so the images have to be right. You want to make sure that it's a real lifestyle images as well as normal images. It works up to a point doing that manual, but once companies are scaling or they're expanding their markets, it can really fall apart. the trigger that we're hearing again and again is a big website replatform or entering a new geography, or it might even be something like a compliance issue where content wasn't quite accurate, which is very important. And that's when the cost of that manual work becomes visible. And it's usually the moment that they're going to start to look at Pimberly to really automate those approvals, enrichment, and the updates.
There's lots of different teams that are worried about product data in travel. You know, there's lots of competing requirements. You know, your CRMs and your operations teams, and then your web and marketing teams that have completely different requirements. So where does that sort of create tension in data priorities?
Okay, well, we've seen this play out with, I suppose, several travel prospects. Ops teams want structured data that makes packaging and ticketing quite seamless. Marketing teams need persuasive copy and imagery, as you can imagine. And without PIM, they often end up working over each other's updates, or they'll publish inaccurate or incomplete content. The value of Pimberly is that each team can enrich what they need in parallel. So it really improves collaboration. They can work off that same golden record. They're not using spreadsheets. And then we keep workflows, we have life cycles to keep everything joined up.
It's quite a complex, you know, I was talking to Alex Phipps on the previous episode about bathrooms and how you've got your taps and your showers and all the component parts, and there's a lot of complexity in like packaging those up. I suppose it's quite similar in travel. You know, you've got your packages, accommodation, amenities, facilities, flights, activities, everything, you know, by season, market, brand. So where do the complexities arise in travel for product data?
So complexity in travel can ramp up really quickly. Accommodation, flights, experiences, activities, you want amenities, packages, and then you've got the seasonality. Seasonality, winter, spring, summer. You've got market rules that layer on top of that. It's completely worldwide. We've seen travel customers hold endless variations of the same packages just to keep up. So they've got constant duplication. And then what we show them with Pimberly is really how to model those dependencies centrally. So one core product can flex for brand, season, and market without that duplication. And I suppose it is quite a big win for teams who are currently very overwhelmed by that package sprawl. So yeah, it can work really well.
I can imagine. So yeah. You mentioned earlier about how travel is a very visual kind of industry. Visual storytelling is really important. You know, when you're going on and booking your holiday, you want to see what the hotel looks like. You want to see what the bathroom looks like. You want to see what the pool's like, all this kind of stuff. But it gets quite complex, doesn't it, when you're talking about different regions, different partners that want to see different things.
Yeah.
So can you talk a bit about that? What makes managing all these images, videos, documents difficult across all those?
So travel, as you said, I said it earlier, it's all about visual storytelling. I think we all book travel, whether it be in the UK or globally. The first thing we do is have a look at the actual hotel, have a look at the flight, the company, what's involved. And it's hard. What we see is how hard it is to manage that at scale. So you've got different rights by region, expiry dates, off-spec file types. What I'm hearing is that teams are spending hours creating versions for the website. They need versions for the booking engine. They've got PDF packs that they send out with everything in there. And then there's the localization for captions or alt text that often lags behind. Again, really important. So our travel customers are asking for DAM capabilities alongside the PIM so that they can automate these renditions, and then they can track the rights. They can keep that imagery consistent everywhere against their product data.
It's a real strength of Pimberly there is the integrated digital asset management within it as well. So which areas in travel are most error prone? Because you mentioned about you know, how important it is for data to be accurate and complete. And if you're doing these manual processes, that can make the data prone to errors. And you know, which areas what is it that's important to get it completely right and make sure that you're making everything accurate and complete?
Yep. So when we whilst I've been talking to travel brands, the riskiest areas, and this has been a constant, has always been cancellation terms, transfer details, seasonal availability, pricing and fees, where we can hold those pricing. So if those are wrong, it's the reputational and financial damage straight away. And then that's why companies are interested in Pimberly's validations, that conditional logic and approval workflow. So what that can do is make sure that the most sensitive data points can't go live incomplete or inaccurate. You've always got those validation checks. Nothing will go live to your booking engine, to your website with missing information.
Yeah, it's very important. I can imagine. You don't want to get that information wrong, and you want to have that as much as we have that automated systems within to save this time.
Yeah.
It's always good to have those manual checkpoints as well. And we're dealing with global companies here. Obviously, you mentioned some of the clients there that you've been working with. These are global companies working with different regions and countries and languages. So how does, the different taxonomies, languages, currencies, and the rules commercially within these different regions, how does that complicate managing the product data?
So firstly, yes, global companies that sell travel absolutely everywhere. We've got companies, I'm based in Manchester, we've got companies that are based in Australia that we work with, but again, they sell globally. Our global travel customers, they're really struggling with that differing taxonomies and rules by brand or by market. One brand calls a product one thing, another uses a different hierarchy. So then you've got to add in the currencies, you've got units, fast changing exchange rates. It becomes a nightmare to keep aligned. And we've seen this with companies expanding internationally. They need one master taxonomy with localized mappings, the ability to apply currencies. That's where Pimberly can really help to unify complexity without slowing those teams down.
Yeah, I can imagine when you're talking about hotel rooms and, you've got by chain, you might have, the royal suite, the regal suite, the master suite, what do all these things mean?
Yeah.
So to being able to map those from a master taxonomy must be really useful, save them a lot of time.
And one thing I would add as well onto that is scopes are often used and create a huge value within travel companies. You're able to differentiate your product data based on where you're sending it to. So you're going to be sending that product data over to your website, but you also need to send it to your agents. Now, your agents are often not going to want to see that fluffy text. They want facts. They want information straight, direct. So we can send them that version of information using scopes. That's one thing we're seeing is regularly used in that one product golden record. You can scope out that information.
Yeah, really handy to have one product, but multiple scopes within that to send, like you say, to the right information to the right place from the one record.
Yeah.
So what challenges come from meeting the different content standards or schemas? We're talking about different places different channels where these holiday packages or individual parts can be sold, OTAs, agents, direct channels. You mentioned before about it's not just about creating the data, but how quickly it updates in the travel industry. Does that create some complexity when you send it to all these channels as well?
Yeah, great question. So when disruption hits and you need to push a change, manually reformatting across partners just isn't feasible. It's a pain point that we've seen consistently. Travel companies, they need to and want to update once. They need to do that centrally. They have the system to push it out in the right format for every single channel. So every channel has its own schema, OTAs, agents, direct websites. And that's exactly what Pimberly's channel templates and the APIs are built for.
Yeah, makes it very quick and simple to do from one place. We talked more about defining complete and trusted in terms of like the product's information. It's important to be accurate. There's a lot of talk in products information industry about AI and how that can help around accuracy, provenance, brand voice. Is that a challenge, do you think, to the travel industry to bring those things in, or is it more of an opportunity? What's your view on AI in terms of products information and travel?
Right. I suppose today our travel customers define complete, not just as having every field ticked, but also and channel ready, fresh, signed off by the right roles. Trusted means that it's traceable to source, it's consistent across endpoints. AI is now part of that picture. So you've got complete, you've got trusted, and now AI becomes part of that picture. It's exciting, but also can be quite risky. So we've heard concerns about hallucinations, rights, brand voice. And that's why the way that we're positioning AI in Pimberly is with governance. So prompts that are anchored to your taxonomy, to guidelines with that human in the loop approval. That balance, I suppose, of speed and trust is where the industry is heading.
Yeah, that sounds spot on, really. As much as you can do with AI very quickly, it's so important to have that oversight and, it's a term they use is like garbage in, garbage out. If you have the right taxonomies feeding in the right way, then you'll get much better results. But then, like you say, the governance, the human in the loop is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about all we've got time for today, Bex. But thank you so much for your insights in that. It's really useful to have someone with the travel background and who's been speaking to these customers that have all these issues. So thanks for sharing all that insight with us.
I used to be the one booking the travel many, many years ago. So yeah, with Thomas
You know the
for
pains.
them. I do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks very much for joining us, and thanks for everyone for listening to the Pimberly Perspectives podcast. If you've got any questions for Becky or about your travel company and you've got similar concerns, please do get in touch. Until next time, thanks for joining us.